So we still have some light fixtures that aren't up yet, but in the bathroom, all the glass and the cabinets are being installed.
Okay, let's do it.
It's not light.
Good night, son. This thing is a beast.
There are certain television personalities who do not just entertain. They change the way an entire nation thinks about something. Joanna Gaines is one of those rare people. Before she ever appeared on a television screen, most Americans had never heard the phrase shiplap. Before she walked through a crumbling house in Waco, Texas, and described what it could become, farmhouse chic was not a cultural movement. It was just an old building style. But Joanna, alongside her husband Chip, turned home renovation into something deeply personal, deeply emotional, and deeply influential. And then, at the absolute height of it all, she walked away. That decision shocked millions of fans, confused the television industry, and launched one of the most fascinating second acts in American entertainment history. When the news broke in September 2017 that Fixer Upper would end after its 5th season, viewers were stunned. The show was not struggling in the ratings. It was not mired in behind-the-scenes drama that had leaked to the press. By every measurable standard, it was thriving. The show had been pulling in 19 million viewers per week and over 75 million viewers across all 5 seasons. Screen Rant networks dream of numbers like that. Stars fight to maintain that kind of cultural relevance. And yet, Joanna and Chip Gaines chose to walk away from all of it voluntarily. The question that lingered in living rooms across America was obvious and urgent. Why? What really happened to Joanna Gaines? The answer is not a single dramatic moment. It is not a scandal, a falling out, or a personal crisis. It is something far more interesting, a layered story about exhaustion, ambition, family, identity, creative freedom, and the courage to choose a bigger vision over a comfortable and profitable one. To truly understand why Joanna stepped back from the show that made her a household name, you first have to understand who she is at her core, where she came from, and what she has always been reaching toward even before the cameras ever found her. Joanna Gaines was born Joanna Lee Stevens on April 19, 1978, in Wichita, Kansas, to a Korean immigrant mother, Nan Stevens, and a father of Lebanese and German heritage, Jerry Stevens, who had met her mother while stationed in Seoul during his U.S. Army service. Britannica, that multicultural background, shaped Joanna in ways that are still visible today in everything she creates. In her warmth, her genuine openness with people, and her instinctive ability to design spaces that feel welcoming to everyone regardless of their background. Growing up between cultures gave her a perspective on beauty and belonging that most designers simply do not have, and it would eventually become one of the defining qualities of her brand. Her childhood was not without its difficulties. As the family moved through several places before eventually settling in Texas, Joanna was often the only Asian American in her schools. Yet by her junior year of high school in Waco, she was named Homecoming Queen. Britannica, that journey from outsider to homecoming queen, is not a minor detail in her biography. It reveals the depth of her social intelligence and her genuine ability to connect with people across differences. It also speaks to a resilience that would serve her enormously as her career grew and the pressures around her multiplied. She went on to study communications at Baylor University, and during her senior year, completed an internship on the CBS program 48 Hours, anchored by Dan Rather in New York City. Britannica, that experience in real television journalism, working with actual stories, real deadlines, and high-stakes production, gave Joanna an understanding of media that most interior designers never develop. She graduated in 2001 with her communications degree in hand, and while she would go on to become one of the most recognized designers in America, she never once sat through a formal design class. Every skill she developed in that world came from observation, instinct, and relentless hands-on practice. It is a detail she has always been open about, and one that has inspired countless people who felt they lacked the credentials to pursue the work they loved. Her path toward design was gradual and unconventional. Rather than seeking a certificate or enrolling in a design program, she learned by doing, taking on small personal projects, working in retail, absorbing everything she could about what made a space feel right and what made a space feel wrong. She developed her eye not in the classroom but in the real world, and the aesthetic she arrived at, clean lines, neutral warmth, a mix of old and new, was entirely her own. In 2001, she met Chip Gaines at her father's auto shop in Waco. Chip had recognized her from commercials she had appeared in for the family tire business. They began dating, and in 2003, they married in Waco, Texas. Britannica, the name they would eventually give their brand, came from a quiet, romantic moment early in their relationship. On one of their early dates, Chip climbed a magnolia tree and gave Joanna a blossom, and that gesture became the inspiration for the Magnolia name. Blogger at large, that origin story matters because it tells you something essential about who the Gaineses are. Personal always came before professional, and meaning always came before marketing. Shortly after their wedding, Joanna joined Chip's house-flipping business. The arrangement suited both of them immediately. He handled construction, she handled design, and together they completed project after project in and around Waco with a growing confidence and a growing reputation. Also in 2003, the couple opened Magnolia Market, a retail store in Waco that sold various home goods. Britannica was a small operation, but it was unmistakably Joanna's. Filled with curated vintage pieces, handcrafted furniture, and carefully chosen decor that reflected her eye for warmth and authenticity. Customers who walked in were not just shopping. They were stepping into a specific point of view about how a home should feel. As Magnolia Market established itself, Joanna began writing a blog about their renovation projects and design philosophy. She wrote simply and honestly, sharing ideas about how to make a home more beautiful, without pretension or jargon. The blog grew steadily, attracting readers who responded to her directness and her genuine enthusiasm for the work. That blog would change everything. An executive at High Noon Entertainment came across Joanna's writing and reached out, suggesting that she and Chip film a short sizzle reel for a potential television show. That concept eventually became HGTV's Fixer Upper. Wikipedia. The pilot of Fixer Upper aired in May 2013, with the first full season beginning in April 2014. Wikipedia, the premise was elegantly simple. Find distressed homes in Waco and transform them into dream homes for deserving families. But the show's appeal was never really about the houses. It was about Chip and Joanna. He was loud, spontaneous, and endlessly entertaining. She was calm, precise, and deeply thoughtful. Together, they created a dynamic that felt completely real because it was. Their children made regular appearances, blurring the line between professional project and family life in a way that audiences found genuinely irresistible. The show's immense appeal was partly due to the interplay between the couple. Joanna was pragmatic and low-key, while Chip was impulsive and boisterous, and their relationship carried an authenticity that resonated with viewers in a way that scripted drama simply cannot manufacture. Britannica. Joanna's design work on the show did not just entertain audiences, it transformed American taste. Her signature look, which became widely known as modern farmhouse, favored neutral colors and existing structural elements such as shiplap, while introducing carefully chosen industrial accents. Simple, fresh, and deeply livable, it was highly influential and endlessly imitated across the country. Britannica's shiplap, which had been little more than a carpentry term before the show aired, became one of the most searched design words on the internet. Barn doors, open floor plans, clawfoot bathtubs, reclaimed wood. Anything Joanna touched became a national trend. By 2018, Zillow reported that homes featuring architectural details mentioned on the show, such as wainscoting, shiplap, clawfoot bathtubs, and barn doors, sold at an average of 30% above their expected value. Wikipedia, that is not a minor cultural ripple. That is a woman single-handedly reshaping how millions of Americans think about their own homes. And yet behind all of that success and all of that influence, something was quietly wearing down. By the time Season 5 was in production, the Gaines empire had expanded in every direction simultaneously. There were books, a magazine, a restaurant, a growing retail operation, a real estate arm, and a home goods line at Target. All of this was being managed while they were filming a major reality television show, overseeing active renovation projects, and raising 5 children. The pressure was enormous and relentless, and it was beginning to leave a mark. The couple later revealed during an appearance on Today that they began to feel genuinely exhausted after 6 years of filming, and that while shooting Season 5, they realized they were going through the motions without being certain why they were doing what they were doing. Screen Rant. That admission is a striking one. Going through the motions in a low-stakes situation is one thing. Going through the motions on a show, watched by nearly 20 million people per week, while managing a sprawling brand and raising a family, is a fundamentally different experience. It is a kind of exhaustion that does not show up on camera, but accumulates underneath the surface until it becomes impossible to ignore. Chip later described her stay at the time as almost desperate to step away from the grind, explaining that the whole situation had become so complicated that it was hard for them to coexist within it. Cinema Blend, he also spoke candidly about the structural difficulty of making the show work at all, the inherent tension in trying to combine the unpredictable reality of renovation work with the rigid demands of a television production schedule, what he called an oil and water mix of client expectations, construction timelines, and the pace of a TV show. Cinema Blend. There was also the unrelenting weight of being a public figure at the scale the Gaineses had reached. Joanna reflected on this difficulty herself, noting that even the most ordinary social media posts she published had become material for clickbait coverage across multiple media outlets. The Hollywood Reporter, she described the emotional toll of that level of visibility with characteristic honesty. It's like you're always going to make a lot of people mad, and you're always going to make a lot of people happy. I don't think as humans we're meant to carry that kind of weight. The Hollywood Reporter, for someone whose entire brand was built on genuine human connection, not a polished, carefully managed celebrity persona, that constant scrutiny was not just draining. It was a threat to the very authenticity that had made her so beloved in the first place. On September 26, 2017, Chip and Joanna made their announcement on the Magnolia blog, writing, "It is with both sadness and expectation that we share the news that Season 5 of Fixer Upper will be our last. While we are confident that this is the right choice for us, it has for sure not been an easy one to come to terms with. Our family has grown up alongside yours, and we have felt you rooting us on from the other side of the screen." Yahoo! The statement was honest, warm, and notably free of bitterness or blame. There was no falling out with HGTV, no hidden scandal, no crisis forcing their hand. This was a choice, a deliberate, difficult, and ultimately brave one. In another statement around the same time, they wrote about their intentions clearly. "Our plan is to take this time to shore up and strengthen the spots that are weak, rest the places that are tired, and give lots of love and attention to both our family and our businesses. Distractify." The series finale of Fixer Upper aired on HGTV on April 3rd, 2018. Yahoo! What followed was a period of genuine rest and reflection that the Gaineses had not allowed themselves in years. They slowed down. They spent time with their children, without cameras present. They thought carefully about what they actually wanted their future to look like, not what the entertainment industry wanted it to look like, not what their audience was asking for, but what was truly right for them. Chip later acknowledged that this period of time off was genuinely a gift, allowing them to recognize that working within the HGTV framework was no longer fulfilling for either of them, and to begin exploring what they truly wanted to do next. Screen Rant, that exploration led to two things: a sixth child, and the beginning of what would become their most ambitious project yet. After the show wrapped, the couple largely set aside the many offers coming from Hollywood during their break and began having serious conversations about their future direction in the summer of 2018. Major players including Apple TV+, A+E Networks, Netflix, and Discovery all made serious overtures, with the final decision ultimately coming down to a choice between Netflix and Discovery. The Hollywood Reporter, they chose Discovery, and the deal they struck was unlike anything they had done before. They would not simply be talent on someone else's channel. They would run their own network. In November 2018, they announced the Magnolia Network, which officially launched in January 2022 with a full slate of design and lifestyle programming. Yahoo! The Magnolia Network gave Joanna and Chip something that 5 seasons of Fixer Upper never could: complete creative freedom. No format restrictions imposed by another network's executives. No production schedules that forced them to compromise on quality. No boundaries on the stories they wanted to tell or the projects they wanted to pursue. They could build programming that reflected their values, their aesthetic, and their vision of what television about home and family and community could actually be. The revival of the show that had started it all, Fixer Upper, Welcome Home, premiered in January 2021 as part of the Magnolia Network's soft launch on Discovery+. Fixer Upper. The castle followed in 2022, Fixer Upper, The Hotel began airing in 2023, and Fixer Upper, The Lake House, premiered in June 2024. Wikipedia. The franchise continued to expand in deeply personal ways. In November 2025, Joanna's eldest daughter Ella made her design debut on the series Fixer Upper. Colorado Mountain House, marking the first appearance of a second-generation Gaines as a designer on a Magnolia production. Wikipedia. The family legacy was no longer just a story about two people from Waco who love renovation. It was becoming something that would outlast any single television show or business venture. Throughout all of this growth and change, Joanna remained committed to honesty about her own experience. When anti-Asian sentiment surged across America in 2021, she did not stay silent. She spoke publicly about growing up as a half-Korean girl in Texas, recalling how as a child she had watched her mother endure harsh looks and cutting comments from strangers who tried to diminish her culture and her dignity. Hello. Joanna used her platform to say plainly that those experiences had shaped her, that they had not been small, and that the world needed every person to show up fully as who they were. It was a reminder that behind the shiplap and the farmhouse kitchens was a woman who had always carried a more complex and more meaningful story than any television format could fully contain. Even as the Magnolia empire grew larger and more complex, the couple remained honest enough with themselves to recognize when they needed to step back and breathe. In 2024, Chip and Joanna quietly took a 3-month sabbatical from their Magnolia Network businesses, leaving the operation in the hands of their team in order to get outside the business, regain perspective, and reset before moving forward. Cinema Blend, it was a pattern they had established years earlier, the willingness to pause when the work stopped feeling purposeful, and the courage to choose rest over productivity, when rest was what was actually needed. What really happened to Joanna Gaines from Fixer Upper is ultimately a story about what happens when someone refuses to let success set the ceiling on their ambition. She did not leave the show because something went wrong. She left because something was going right, just not on television anymore. The vision she and Chip had been quietly building toward was larger than any single network could contain, any single format could express, or any single show could accommodate. And rather than stay comfortable inside a structure that had begun to feel too small, she chose to build something bigger on her own terms. From a multicultural childhood in Wichita to a homecoming crown in Waco, from a communications degree to a self-taught design career that reshaped American aesthetics, from a blog to 75 million television viewers, from HGTV talent to network owner, author, restaurateur, and now the mother of the next generation of Magnolia designers. Joanna Gaines has never once taken the obvious path. She has always, unfailingly, taken the one that felt most true to who she is. And the story she is still writing promises to be the most interesting chapter yet.